Welcome, everyone. We're doing another episode of Vinny Makes the Hall of Fame Case for ... And if you're a regular viewer or listener of this show, you know that Vinny sometimes takes requests. And he said to me, all right, in honor of you moving from Winnipeg to Seattle, I want you to pick a couple. So I did, and I tasked him with, and it turns out actually it's now another request too from another gentleman that we both know in the Twitterverse or Xverse, whatever they call it. We are going to be looking at my request, someone who is my most wanted all-time player, Bill Dahlen.
Yeah, this is Phil for you and for my friend Corey Stolzenbach. Both are very, very big into Bad Bill, and I can't blame you. Like, this is one of those pre-World Series era people that are getting that's getting a lot of attention. I would argue probably more than anyone else in that era, outside of maybe Doc Adams, of course.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So a few interesting stats. And as I was sort of like doing my own other research on it, I mean, you can see why he was passed over just the way they thought then, and you can see why he's thought of now. If we look at the modern sabermetric, of B War, and some people poo-poo on that. I don't, but you know, if you think it's a flawed stat, I'll listen to that. But with the exception of Jim McCormick, his 75.3 puts him higher than any other non-Hall of Fame person who's eligible, with the exception of obviously Pete Rose, who's banned, and the steroids guys.
Yeah, like outside of those failures by the Hall of Fame.
Well, but I mean, we know we can point at a reason, right? So, but anyway,
yeah.
But yeah, go on.
Well, yeah, Bill Dahlen, in terms of he is the poster child, in my opinion, of advanced sabermetrics, looking at an early day of baseball, which I really do appreciate how it's been doing that. It's not like Hollywood football where they think that professional football started with the Super Bowl or whatever. No. This actually looks way back into like the early days, really, really early days. And I love seeing that. I mean, not only that, Dahlen has a lot of basic stats in his favor too. When his career ended, he actually held the career for most amount of games played, and he was also second in walks. He was also someone that had a 42 game hitting streak.
Yeah,
42 game hitting streak.
Well, yeah, he set that record, so that was a record he held until who broke that? I know DiMaggio would broke, but I don't know if it was his. I think it was Keeler. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, it was broken 18. It was broken 1897, but it's still the fourth longest.
Yep.
In history, like still to this day, and he did this in the 1890s, and it's still fourth longest.
Yeah, so let's look at some of those other stats. So finished with 2,461 hits, 1,234 RBIs, and 548 stolen bases. I want to put a pin in the hits because I want to talk about that a little bit more as to why I feel he was looked over back then. Because when you look at when he was even on the ballot, it was like he was on the initial ballot on a veterans thing, got virtually no support, was on another ballot 2 years later, got minuscule support, and was never on the ballot again of any kind. Dahlen, I want to go to another sabermetric if I could. 10th overall among all shortstops in Jaws.
10th. Yeah, he's I know he's dominant. He's again, regardless of how you look at it, he is extremely dominant in terms of Jaws.
Yeah, let's
one thing for sure.
Go ahead, please.
I mean, one thing for sure for Bill Dahlen, like he is someone that both the modern and the old-fashioned people can agree on. Bill Dahlen is super, super significant, and I would argue he is the best shortstop not in the Hall of Fame at the moment, in my personal opinion.
I'd go with that. I want to read off names of the people he's over in Jaws and shortstop. I mean, there's a lot who are in the Hall of Fame, but I've just got some big names I wanted to bring out. Alan Trammell, Barry Larkin, Derek Jeter, Bobby Wallace, Lou Boudreau, Luis Aparicio, Pee Wee Reese, Joe Tinker. And Tinker's sort of important one because this is the only one who actually overlaps his career. It would be
Mhm.
Tinker. And if you put stat by stat, defensively, Tinker appears to be the better player, but offensively, it's not even close.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Dahlen's 10th all time. The only people that are above him are in this are Ozzie Smith, Ernie Banks, Luke Appling, Robin Yount, George Davis, Ar Archie Vaughn, Cal Ripken, A-Rod, and Honus Wagner. I mean,
Yeah.
outside of A-Rod, who really knows, because the same thing with the steroid stuff. Maybe one day I'm not gonna hold my breath knowing the voters, but yeah, Dahlen's above of most of these guys. Like he's above many of the guys we see as the best
Right.
or around the best. And when it's that high, it'd be one thing if he was around the average. Okay, but when you're well above the average, not only that, over five more others than the next, yeah, you're pretty deserving. You're pretty deserving by that metric.
Yeah.
So I'd say, yeah, it's just this is a situation like how we would mention Kevin Williams for Hall of Fame monitor for
Mhm.
football reference, how he's above the average for defensive tackles. And he's still not, and he hasn't even been a semifinalist yet. In this case, Bill Dahlen has gotten attention. He has been on a
Lately.
couple of Veterans Committee ballots,
Yeah.
and he's gotten increasingly more support. So yeah, like this is so obvious at this point.
But it wasn't to the voters in 1936 and really for the next 40 years after. What
Yeah.
they look at, and what when I was a little kid, I was trained to look at this too, was the amount of hits and your batting average and your home runs. Well, Dahlen's not going to have a whole lot of home runs because he played in the dead ball era. So that
Yeah.
was never going to happen. But the 2,461 hits are still very impressive. But as something that you mentioned earlier, Vinny, at the time of his retirement, he was second all time in walks. We
Mhm.
give a shit about that a lot more now than we did back then, or even when I was a child.
I think it's important to look at literally everything.
Right. But
Literally,
they
like
didn't.
I think it's important to look at literally everything in terms of baseball or all sports. And that's included.
Yeah, and I think that's a big reason why he didn't stand out to a lot of other people. Second reason, again, going back to Tinker, Tinker is always going to be the Chicago Cubs, right? Bill
Yeah.
Dahlen was what that team when they were called the Colts, but he did play for other multiple teams. He also didn't make a lot of friends. Dahlen was ejected more than anyone else at that time. I don't know if he still holds that record. I didn't. I should have
I
checked that.
He was nicknamed Bad Bill because of his temperament.
Right.
And I know some of these people were talking about, oh, character, character. Listen, I
Well,
think many of the people that vote for this stuff have worse character than Bill Dahlen in many instances.
but let's talk about character though, right? So I was trying to see like all the people that he angered, and it was usually management or writers. I didn't find anything. Now I could be easily proven wrong, but I haven't found anything where he clashed with teammates.
I haven't seen anything. There was just the media and the managers, which, if you believe in the idea of the pen's mightier than the sword, then I guess that hurts him.
Right. And with the information that they had, you're hearing, well, this guy's an asshole from people who didn't necessarily play with him, especially when you start that in 36 and Dahlen's career ended what, 1909? Or do I have that wrong?
1911. Sorry,
1911,
ended in
sorry.
1911.
Right. So I think that all that stuff works so much against him at the time. Now, at this point, I mean, we're not hearing anything. If I can't find anything from his teammates saying this guy was a prick, then I'm going to assume he wasn't. He just fought for what he believed in. And if he was angry, well, a lot of us have bad
The way
tempers.
the way I see it too, I mean, his teams won. He
Mhm.
was very dominant. And if he was really that much of a detriment, how come he had a record for most amount of games played?
Mhm. Absolutely. I guess it also doesn't help that his managerial career wasn't very successful. Saying that he's here as a player, and there's been a lot of great players who went on to be shitty managers.
Yeah. I mean, even though I'm someone that likes to look at entire careers and whatnot.
Right.
When the playing career is so much better than the managerial career or the assistant coach career, I don't really look at it that much. It'd be one thing if Dahlen was a phenomenal manager or an assistant coach or something, but just a player, that's fine. It's extremely dominant as a player, so I'm not going to hold that against him.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing too, I noticed when it came to Bill Dahlen, when you have the record for putouts at shortstop were passed in the NL by Ozzie Smith in 1993. So his record for putouts at his position held for nearly a century.
Yeah, I mean, like he's got everything that you would need. I mean, I can completely understand why he got looked over for as long as he did because that's how they thought. You know, you can't go back and say, why didn't you look at the sabermetrics? Saber what? You know, they don't know any of that. But
Yeah,
I think now, I mean, he was on that last ballot, the last senior one. So hopefully we're going to see something pop up for that. But like that he'll be considered again on the next one. We'll see. But from there, I think this one has a shot. I don't know how many relatives he's got at this point.
I wish I knew too. I know that he had a daughter named Corinne. I do not know who if she had any children herself. I don't know if he's in the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame, but I do know that Rene LaRoe, he told me that he wants to focus on people that are alive. But if I work with it, maybe I can get people like a Dahlen in there. I mean, even though he did start off with the Colts/Orphans, which is now the Cubs, he spent the majority of his career in New York, and he grew up in New York, so he could work there. Also, I do think, considering how well known he is in the sabermetrics community, he should really be in the Cubs Hall of Fame. He needs to be in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is something that we could really see. There's no reason why he shouldn't be in more Hall of Fames. Like you said, those are great ones for sure. Uh, I guess with that, I think we both were pretty big on this one. Corey, we hope you like this.
Mhm. Yeah.
For sure. If you like everything that Vinny does, he makes a lot of great Hall of Fame cases. Also, check out the series that him and I have been doing on basketball nominees from the preliminary list. And talk about a lot of old school players, a lot of international players, and a lot of people that when you see those names, a lot of us, including myself, not Vinny, because Vinny's America's favorite sports historian, but sometimes they'll go, who the hell's this? But then you learn about them and it's like, wow, pretty cool stuff.
And then you start wanting them for the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm. Well, some more than others, but yes.
Yeah, of course, obviously. But
Okay.
still, more the
There
merrier.
you go. Absolutely. Well, with that, wherever you are, wherever you may be, make this a fantastic day because it never comes again.